Welcome back from Vienna. Pax Europiana here. I have already presented today the podcast about the European Growth and Unity package and plan, which I propose now in 2021. A major second infrastructure, commonly financed EU project, the Growth and Unity plan, this time for Eastern Europe. Because we have now, last year, 2021, saved Southern Europe, and they have actually not reformed very much the last 20 years, but we saved them. It was necessary. I'm for solidarity in the European Union. It was expensive and necessary. But now it's also necessary to do something for Eastern Europe. They came through the crisis relatively better and the growth is there. Because why? Because they have a competitive tax system, a competitive economic system, and they have never started with these extravaganzas of Southern Europe to copy Northern Europe without the productivity. So what's now the situation for these countries? What they of course lack, and they will lack it for decades to come, that's European style of infrastructure. In Italy and Spain, despite being poor, they have fast trains already, they have highways, they have modern infrastructure in energy and digital. What we need now is to build the same for Eastern Europe and to fund it together. So it's necessary to do in 2021 a second common package of debt, mutualized debt, that is 750 billion euros. I propose the same level, and to focus that on Eastern Europe, but including Ukraine, including Turkey, including Georgia and Azerbaijan, and also the Balkans, obviously, and all countries east of Austria, and actually Austria as well. We are also completely underinvested in that terms. And you see the reality of Europe, only the big countries have fast trains because they are richer, because they can pool funding in the center, and then they build this kind of continental infrastructure like Paris can afford, and they actually cannot afford, but they have the capacity to fund and to finance such big projects, the TGV. And we need also the same the Germans have the same. Poland can do a bit because it's a big country, but all other countries, including Austria, they will never have really fast trains because the geography is difficult and the funding is difficult, impossible close, and there's also a less economic case when you see it just for Slovenia, just for Croatia, just for Kosovo, just for maybe Ukraine can do it by itself in 100 years, but is this the time frame we really want? Therefore I propose the following. Let's make another effort and a common effort, and this time to buy to pay. It's not to buy somebody, but not to fund, just a funding arrangement. It's really a grant arrangement. It's really that the European level agencies, which I propose, the European Agency for Railway Infrastructure, for Energy Infrastructure, they fund themselves directly by a commonly agreed budget, 750 billion, which is then used to build all the energy infrastructure to be independent from Russia. And that is very important, that we have the gas and electricity infrastructure from the Russian border, from the Baltic countries to Bulgaria, including Turkey, in one common energy system where gas, coal and nuclear and all the energy infrastructure to transport energy and gas and petrol, harbors, whatever you need, that this is working in one compatible system under one direction, under one regulatory system, from the Russian border to the Atlantic, and from the Mediterranean to the Nordic Sea. That is really important. Then also the highway infrastructure, which is so underdeveloped still, and we really need to invest in highways. Then of course we need also to invest in railways, standard railways. The unification of the Ukrainian system away from the Russian size towards the European size, absolutely important. The whole changing of the rolling stock, the modernization, but also then the high-speed train network. I've said already, from Mariupol to Dnipro to Kiev to Brussels and north, then also the tunnel from Helsinki to Estonia, down south towards Bulgaria, connecting Georgia and the northern Black Sea, and also Kherson, then on the south of the Black Sea, the two Balkan routes, or the three Balkan routes, one at the Black Sea, one in the center, the Corridor 10, one at the coast, and so on and so on. It's a lot, I remember Mrs. Palacio, at that time I was still a student in the 90s, student representative, EDS chairman. She made a big estimation how much the infrastructure of Eastern Europe on Western level would cost. At that time it was on that monetary value, she said, approximately €500 billion, and then nobody wanted to pay for it. It was a mistake. We should have done it. We should have mutualized the debt already then. And what happened? Mostly the Polish and the Eastern Germans got the infrastructure. Poland because it's a big country, and Eastern Germany because of unification. And the rest is slowly, steadily, according what the countries can afford and where the political will is, they can build something, and some of them have done it. But overall, we are really in a big mess, and we have lost a lot of time because of the lack of unity in Europe and the will to spend things together and to get things done. At the same time, the Chinese, they have less problems with unity. They even too centralized. Obviously, they're authoritarian system, but in infrastructure, look, unity matters, and the common will to do something matters as well. And they have built an unbelievable high-speed train network in China now in the last 20 years. While we were basically building a good one in Germany and in Italy and in France, yes, in Spain, very good, for the 4 countries, because they are the big countries. And then they connect a little bit with Austria, it's a bit connected to the German system, yes, good. And we have also done one train line which allows a bit of a better speed than the monarchy speed. But when this building here was built, and the Austrian monarchy was delivering a better rail infrastructure, quite a modern one for that time, and not maybe the best in the world, but a modern railway infrastructure all over Central and Eastern Europe. And to this day, much of this is used. The tracks maybe have been changed, some of them metal, but basically we have not really developed very well since the last 120 years when it comes to Central and Eastern European unity. I mean, that's quite shameful. We have really missed out a lot. And now when I make these polemics that the Kaiser infrastructure was better in the Balkans than Ursula's infrastructure, and some people criticize me that I'm not serious, but it's true. It's a basic fact. We had a railway towards Herceg-Novi in Montenegro, today's Montenegro. That was the Bay of Kota, it was in Austria, in Hungarian monarchy, and there was a railway from Vienna. I could enter here, Southern Station, go to Sarajevo, from Sarajevo to Trebinje, and then there was a coastal road, not directly to Trebinje, to Herceg-Novi. And today, I can drive by car. Yes, of course, technology is there, and there's highway. Oh, there's no highway. Oh, we have promised it already. Anyhow, that's the growth and unity package. But it must be accompanied by economic measures, which I have outlined already. First of all, the conclusions of the free trade agreements, the ratification of Mercosur, and the conclusion of a trade agreement with the United States of America. That's extremely important now for European and for British economic stability now during the crisis. And also then the others which are so long overdue, like Indonesia and the Gulf Cooperation Council and so on, they should all be concluded. Australia, why don't we have a free trade agreement with Australia and New Zealand? Or with Indonesia. Australia has one with Indonesia. We don't have one with Indonesia nor with Australia. That's quite bizarre for me, and ununderstandable. That's for the openness of the goods. And then the people, obviously, that is the pan-European labor market for Ukraine and the Balkans to be fully included in our labor market, not in our social system. That's for later when they are full members. That was also very important, by the way. But now to have the openness in the labor market and not to continue this failed Austrian socialist protectionism to get everybody out, that's a very mean thing what we do, and I'm really very disappointed. And then obviously the common pan-European capital market, that is also very logical. We have many scandals because we don't have good supervision and we have not a real pan-European capital market. I have also called for a pan-European land market and a pan-European mortgage market, but we are moving in a different direction. Cross-border finance, less and less for private people. Everybody just supervision, tax evasion, and instead of developing a real European Union, we are again completely segmented as well in the financial markets. But okay, The most important anyhow is to get the euro enlarged and to make sure that we have now the unilateral adoption of the euro in Ukraine and in Serbia and in Albania, Bosnia, Macedonia, and after the Montenegro model, and then to make sure that we have also the enlargement of the eurozone hand in hand now from Romania, from Croatia, Bulgaria is anyhow coming, but Poland as well, and Czech Republic in this crisis. Whenever there was a moment to be united and to adopt the euro or to join the eurozone, it's absolutely now. So that's really very important. Yes, and economically, it's always my topic since 20 years, the reduction of the tax burden on the companies and on the individuals. That's so important, and to shift it towards the consumption, towards land, tax the rich, tax the land, so logical, and then to make sure that we have 15% corporation tax in Austria, and that we have also 10% in Greece, and in all Eastern Europe only 10% corporation tax, and then 15% income tax in Austria flat, and then also 10% in Eastern Europe. And that's the best tax system, and most of the countries have it already, and now it's time to get it for the remaining country. I hope Albania will now change back to the 10% system. Serbia would be also very good to have reason, but I wonder if there is any kind of reform effort. He's only interested in authoritarian self-control and self-aggrandizement, Mr. Vucic, but okay, let's see. Maybe there is some wisdom also on tax reform, and that would be very good. And also in Ukraine to reduce the taxes to 10. That is of course my big battle of the last 5 years, and I hope it will come. So that's important. And in Germany now with the elections, hopefully Armin Laschet will be together with the Greens also making a signal towards the economic aspects of the reform agenda and reduce the taxes in Germany to 20%. In the same level it should be maximum 20% all over Western Europe obviously 20, then the medium countries like Austria, Italy 15, and their upcoming countries still poor 10% in Eastern Europe. That's the optimum taxation level, and that's what I call for. And that's the Growth and Unity Pact in a nutshell. Obviously there's much more to be done on the specific aspects of it, but openness is key to prosperity, openness to goods, openness to people, openness to immigration, openness to a pan-European labor market, a competitive SME-oriented model of growth with low taxation, with freedom of the company, the entrepreneurs, and also that's very important, I forgot almost, the privatization of the state-owned companies, obviously. I made many podcasts now explaining it in details, but we need to get the 49% of the infrastructure companies on the stock market, like we have done it for the energy market, so it should be also for the Austrian railways and for the German railways and for all railways in Europe, and also then to mutualize them into a European infrastructure company if it's needed, and to merge the German Bahn and the SNCF into one big European champions of the railway system, and that is also very important, like we've done it with Airbus. And to privatize what can be privatized, obviously easily on the stock market. That's easier for the Western European rich countries because they can obviously access the capital market easier, but the rest then to mutualize it and to sell it to the EIB, or when there is a lot of political resistance against privatization, to then sell it all to the European Investment Bank and make European infrastructure holdings which are better organized, better funded, better working according to European priorities, and obviously less politicized, less exploited by the politician for the jobs and for the funding and for the advertisement for the political newspapers, and so on and so on. So this is very important, and that will also be a major drive for a new entrepreneurial structure and culture in Europe, where there is less kind of state corporate giants fighting each other or protected by the politicians, somehow collusive networks, corrupt networks against the private sector. No, it will be very good for them to be more open and to be more transparent, and that will be their major drive for a more open, successful Europe. A growth phase we need. We need it obviously to reduce the debt we are now taking, And the new growth and unity package of another 750 billion doesn't make a lot of aspect on that one, because we already have reached 100% of EU GDP or Eurozone GDP in debt, and that's about 18 to 19 trillion, depending how you calculate it. But it's quite a lot. The 715 don't add a lot, but they are very important to bring the growth phase. But to reduce this GDP ratio, we need a growth phase where we, in the next decade, out of Corona in 2022, we grow above 4% in the European Union. We can do that in Eastern Europe easily. We can relatively come close with the lower taxation in Germany and France. I'm confident if they go for 20% that will happen. But in Southern Europe, obviously, we need also deeper structural reforms. First of all, the privatization or the Europeanization of the assets. We help them to reduce their debts, but the public companies move to Frankfurt or to Luxembourg. And this will be the debt equity swap. And then also to open the labor market and to change the economic system with more Europeanization of economic policy decision making and the pan-European labor market. That's obviously the way forward to reform Spain and Italy. Don't forget, under Rato, the economic minister, 15 years ago, the Spanish unemployment was already very low. Then the socialists have messed everything up 15 years and we are in a big mess again. And Italy is anyhow now at 165 of the economic of the GDP debt level, in a kind of it's not a bankruptcy, it's not a liquidity. Mr. Draghi will manage very well, but it's in a kind of custodial Chapter 11 situation, more or less, the same like Greece. Yeah. And if we continue to allow it to them and just to pump money via the Euro system and via the SURE system and the 2020 package, we can do that, and we should do that sometime, to help. But there must be also the reforms coming which are necessary to also kickstart growth in the south of Europe. And it's a beautiful region, and I love it very much, but it will be not very successful if they continue with the economic model of the 1980s to compete in the 2020s. So that's important. Lower taxes also for the south, and also the infrastructure interconnectivity. Also a lot of the projects I propose, like the Messina Tunnel and the Gibraltar Tunnel, the Adriatic Tunnel, is very good for Italy and Spain. And so we can do all these things together. And we should do it together. But if we are already together, then we should also take Ukraine, Kosovo, Bosnia, Serbia and Albania and Macedonia and Montenegro into the European Union, all NATO members to join. First NATO, then the EU, and first the Euro, obviously. That's my line. First the Euro, then NATO, and then the EU. But all of them united together and to develop together, to carry this Europe together, united through the crisis. I think that's a powerful and beautiful vision, which I endorse fully, and I hope there will be wisdom when Mrs. Merkel now discusses about the future of Europe. That's my video for that. We need a European growth and unity package. Focus on Eastern Europe. Here's the hope for European recovery. Very clear, very big, but it needs also a strong infrastructure package. And then reform Southern Europe and reform Germany. Mrs. Merkel, 16 years you didn't cut the taxes, and that was the reason why we are in a mess, economically definitely. And this needs to be also done now, hopefully in the next priority government, 2022, the government of lower taxes. So, the future of Europe will be bright if exactly these aspects which I have outlined will happen. Otherwise we will have a decade of misery ahead of us, and again a decade like the last one with every second year a major crisis, and we will not convince anybody of our success, and that would be very bad. Yeah? Good, I'm optimist. Thanks a lot for listening. My podcast, Pax Europiana, please check it out on Apple iTunes, and also here give me a like for the Growth and Unity Pact. Thanks a lot. Bye.